Hey, Mark here again from Coachbetter. Welcome to another one of our World Cup previews. Tonight we're going to have a look at the semi-final between Argentina and Croatia. Two teams who found different routes, already overcome a number of obstacles to reach this stage of the competition. Now, what can we expect to see? Well, again, like a lot of the tournament, we're going to see two teams with a defensive line of four. So it's been a reasonably common theme from this tournament compared to the World Cup in 2018. More and more teams playing with a defensive line of four rather than a defensive line of 3 or 5. If we look at all the semi-finalists and all of the quarter-finalists, bar the Netherlands, all have set up with a defensive line of 4. Whereas if we compare that to 2018, we had both Belgium and England reaching the semi-final stages, both setting up a defensive line of 3. And that's what I expect to see again tonight. Although Argentina tried to match the Netherlands up in their quarter-final, I fully expect them to go back to their preferred defensive line of 4, holding midfield player, 2 offensive 8s and a front 3, which will be very similar to how Croatia will set up. You know, a back 4, that now famous midfield 3, and then the front 3. So this is the type of scene I think we can expect to see a lot of tonight. Argentina in the build-up phase, Croatia set up in a mid-block. So where are going to be the key battles and key considerations? Well, as we've talked about previously with Argentina often like to create what we call triple width. So the wide 8 in centre midfield will peel out into the fullback position. The fullback will push a bit higher, and what I think Di Maria will come back in the team will then be the third of that triple threat outside the width of the 8-yard box space. What does that do? It really asks questions of Croatia's defensive players. Do they hold their positions narrow and protect the middle of the pitch? Or do they release earlier to make it more difficult for Argentina to exploit that overload in wide areas? And this will be a big area of the game because Argentina have been very effective down that right-hand side with either getting to the byline to deliver cutbacks or effective crosses, or dragging a lot of defenders over the side of the pitch to give the main man, Lionel Messi, a little bit of space to receive the ball centrally and shoot, or feed the isolated player on the opposite side. So, what I think will happen? Well, I think Croatia have no choice but to either go out there and start to defend that situation. And the problem then, as we know, is that Lionel Messi drifts into that right side half space. And the problem for Croatia will have then is, like they've had a few of their games so far, is the likes of Modric and the 8s are going to have a decision to make. How do I keep the team compact and connected? My wide player has gone wide, my fullback's released early. I can't cover that gap between them without leaving a gap on the inside and allowing Messi to receive the ball in an even more dangerous position. And you can see in these examples, this is where Croatia have found it challenging so far in the tournament. Because of the quality they've got in midfield on the ball, they can lack at times a little bit of athleticism to get back into their defensive shape and keep their lines nice and compact. So we can see in this example, the number 9's out of the picture, a big space in front of their midfield line, but also find it difficult to protect the space in between their defensive line and in midfield line, which in this example meant the number 10 receiving the ball and feeding a front runner for a really good chance on goal. So, the problem they've now got is a decision for the centre-backs. The likes of Lovren, do they step out and go and get tight with a Messi? Do they go and get in there early and do their best to prevent him turning? Now, I'm sure that's what they'll want to do, but given the profile of Croatia's defensive line and the lack of speed and mobility they've got, they'll also be very reluctant to go in there because they know if they do, they leave space behind them, and Messi is good enough to find a way to turn, even with a man on his back, and thread through passes. And this is another scene we saw in the Japan game, where Japan forward has come off the defensive line of Croatia. No one's gone with him. He's turning, and we can see a runner already and a runner out of shot, looking at our run behind that Croatian defensive line. And we can see this is the type of picture we might see often. passes being got into Messi from either central areas or from wide areas, and then runners beyond for the likes of Martinez and McAllister for him to pick a pass. And as we saw super effectively from their goal against the Netherlands, a run from the outside to receive a reverse pass into that space left by a centre-back who's left his position. And Brazil, again, another example of a team who exploited that situation. We can see here an example where the forwards come off to receive and turn, defender hasn't come with him, and a runner running now in behind to receive that potential assist pass. Finally, big moment of the game. We know it's going to be tight. It's a World Cup semi-final. It's a tight match. If not 50-50, 51-49. Two good teams really going at it. So the small margins and moments are going to be super important. And one big moment, other than set plays as always, is going to be the turnover of the ball. You know, when a team loses possession or regains possession, how quickly they can exploit the opposition or deny the opponent the chance to counter-attack on them. And this is where Argentina are incredibly strong. Because as you can see in this example here, Holland are in good possession. Argentina now recovering their shape, and we can see 33:44 on the clock. Yet suddenly, at a blink of an eye, 18 seconds later, Argentina have regained the ball, got behind the defensive line of the Dutch, and have scored the opening goal of the game. So, they're the big things to look out for in tonight's game, in terms of how Argentina are going to find a way to break Croatia down in the main. You know, Croatia are very much a team that like to go round teams or shoot from distance. So I think you can keep an eye for Croatia with crossing moments, for Perisic arriving or Modric dropping on seconds. But Argentina, for sure, are going to have to find a way to, again, exploit that right-hand side where they'll try up an overload. How often can they get Messi in the game? And ultimately, big answer for Croatia, how can they stop Messi being so effective to providing assists or even goals? Look at this one. It'll be tight. I can see extra time or an Argentina winning 90. But whatever the outcome, I see Argentina progressing through to the final of the World Cup. Enjoy the game. We'll see you tomorrow for another semi-final preview.